today, and I thought on the drive in that this would be kind of a cool way to show it. I have this little alien guy in Illustrator. Okay, this is just regular Illustrator. And I wanted to make him kind of pop into a box. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And then we'll show some more title stuff. So when you're in Illustrator and you're making a item that you're going to bring into After Effects, you have to make sure that it's sized correctly. So what I do is I go, you can use any of these things up here. This is a film or video, whatever. Realistically, these are presets. You can just type stuff in. So if you remember from After Effects, when we make a new composition, we set it to be 960 by 540. That's what we set our resolution to be. So what I do here is make sure this is set to 960 pixels by 540 pixels. Then obviously it's landscape, not portrait, so then I pick landscape. Now for something like the Angry Bird, that's going to be an element inside of an animation. I don't need that to be 960 by 540. I can just leave that as square because just like our blip, he'll be an asset inside of something else. But typically this is a good way to start. So I hit, make sure it's also on RGB, and then hit create. This guy's on CMYK, so it's not a big deal. If I need to, I can change that later. Just set it to RGB. Nothing changes. Awesome. And then you just save it. Okay, so it's just you do your artwork. I've layered everything, so everything that I'm going to animate separately, I have on a separate layer. Okay? So all the pieces that I want to be able to control in After Effects have to be on a separate layer. And then I've just saved this inside of my artwork folder, and for now I just threw it inside title sequence. Okay? So I'm going to open up my title sequence blip thing that we had before. Demo. 2 files are missing, that's fine. Oops, I'm not going to do that actually. I'm going to go to open up my title demo. Oops, title sequence, that's what I wanted. Yep, that's okay. I'm going to drop this into my composition, make sure I'm staying organized, and then I'm just going to bring in my artwork. So under File Import, or you can right click and go to Import File, Control I, a trillion different ways to do it. I need to bring in that artwork. So that's how I do it. Title sequence, it's in my artwork folder, and there's my alien parts. When you bring in something from Photoshop or Illustrator, it will maintain all the stuff that you've done. So all your layers, it'll bring in. Any effects that you've done to it, it'll bring those in. Any fonts or type, it'll bring those in. Okay? What's awesome about that is typically if you work at a bigger studio, you'll have an art department that's designing all your stuff for you in Illustrator. And then you'll have the After Effects department, which is doing all the animation stuff. So while they're working on the finished artwork, you can start working on the animation, and all you have to do is re-import their stuff, and then everything is cool. As opposed to waiting for them to have to draw it inside of After Effects. As we import this, we can import it as footage. Basically, all my layers are squished, and it's just a flat image. That's all that is. Most of the time, like 99.9% of the time, I will click on Composition, Retain Layer Size. Okay? And then hit Import. Drop this into my folders. Okay. So I have, what this gives me is it gives me a composition. So that composition size I set up inside of Illustrator, if I were to double click this, it created a composition. Here's my alien. Here's all those layers that I created. Okay? So you see why it's important to make sure we label stuff is because now I know exactly what each one of these layers does. It's a lot easier inside Illustrator to turn stuff on and off, see what it is, rename it, make sure it's updated. Okay, whoops. It also gives me this, which is the layers. So if I wanted to extract any of these things and use something from this and something else, I definitely could do that too. So I'm just going to grab both of these things here, or this one I'm going to put it inside comps. This one I'm going to put inside artwork. There we go. And inside here, I'm just going to make a little animation. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm just going to draw a guide. Let's say right there. Okay. So what this animation is going to be is my little alien guy is just going to pop his head up, put his hands up there, pop his head up, and then look around, and then that's it. Okay. So that's my animation. So to start off, everything's going to be down below. Okay. Now, this is an important thing to pay attention to also. See how I have to grab all of my layers and move everything down? that's a huge hassle for me, okay? I don't want to have to do that. I would much rather have some stuff being controlled by other stuff, if that makes sense, okay? So like the hands, I'm pretty much going to move those separate. The head, I'm going to move separate too. But when the neck, or when the head moves, obviously the eyes aren't going to like follow it from below. That doesn't really make sense. Same thing with the nose and mouth. So here's another thing that we can show is this parenting, okay? So basically I can take one element and I can connect it to another element called parenting, which means when this guy moves, so will you, okay? I can still move the child, which is what the one that's parented is called. I can still move him around, but the other one, when he moves, the other one's going to move automatic. So just so you can see how that works, the face, which is right there, I want the eyes, nose, and mouth to all move with the face. The nose is already part of the face layer. So when I turn the face off, the nose actually goes away too. You can't really see it too good, but it does. But the mouth and the pupils do not. Okay, so if I grab this and just move it, it's creepy. It does not move. So I'm going to go to right pupil, go to the parent tab, see where we have track mat. We had to click this little button down here. And I'm just going to choose face. I'm going to go to left pupil, parent, face. I'm going to go to mouth, parent, face. So now what should happen is I can move mouth, left pupil, and right pupil independently, all by themselves. Doesn't affect anything. But when I move head, it will move all of those assets together. Okay, does that make sense, sort of? Okay, so see how I've done that? So you can kind of think of it like a group. So I've kind of grouped those together. I can still move the stuff inside the group, but I can't. If I move the group, everything's going to move. Okay, that's what that means. All right, so now I can animate basically three things, this, and that, just to do my start animation. So everything's going to start below here. He's doing pull-ups now. Let's get that below there. Whoa. This is where we lock our guides. There we go. Pull those down. Okay. It doesn't matter where these are at right now. I'm actually going to probably put them there. I just need them to be below that line. In my other comp that I'm going to show this in, or that I want to actually present this in, I'm going to have a box, and he's going to pop into that box. Okay? So you'll see how that all works. So I'm going to go to my hands, and I'm going to set some position keyframes. I'm going to scoot up a little bit. And I'll grab this hand and put that up. I'll go up a couple more frames. And then I'll put that hand up. And I'll go up a couple more frames. Put that one down. Go up a couple more. Put that one down. Okay. So now it's going to look like, if you kind of just visualize it from this point. So it looks like he's actually putting his hands over there and grabbing it. Silly, right? All right. So now I need the head to pop up. So he goes bloop. And now the head's going to come up. Hit P on the face and go here. And then right about there looks good. Okay, that might be a little bit quick. Let's pull that back a little bit. He's been kind of shifty-eyed, so I want to make him go a little slower. Nope, a little bit slower. There you go. I'm going to spread this out a little bit just so he's coming up. There we go. That looks good. Okay. All right. So let me go to my hands now. I'm going to grab my keyframes. I'm going to easy ease. And for that, there really isn't, like in our previous animations, we've done like super slow to super fast. The hands would look weird if they were going super slow to super fast. Okay. If you don't believe me, I'll do it to one. You guys never believe me. Click on position. Click on these. Whenever we have multiple keyframes, basically you're picking a direction. So, super fast, super slow, and then super fast at the end. Okay, I wouldn't want to take all the fast and put them there, because then he's going to go fast, slow, and then fast, slow again, and that looks weird. Okay, so I just go fast, slow it down, and then fast at the end. So pay attention to right hand. Looks like slamming his hand on the ground. Right? So left hand definitely looks more natural. So we typically will look at the graph. You'll realize the graph is there. You don't always have to touch the graph. Most of the time when you're doing motion graphics, a graphic flying into the screen, you will. When you're doing a character, you typically don't have to push things like that. So I'm just going to reset these back to where they were. I'm going to highlight these, control click it to get it back to where it was, and then go back to easy ease. And that should reset my graph, yes. Sweet. Okay. So there's my shifty character, boop boop, and there's his eyes. Okay. All right. So now as he's coming up, I think I'm actually going to have him pause. So I'm going to throw a diamond in here. I'm going to go here, throw a diamond in. And then what I can do when I throw these diamonds in is I can do hold keyframes. So I can basically say, I want you to go here and hang out for a little bit, and then start moving again. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to go back a couple frames and paste it. So I just Control C, Control V. So watch what happens. He comes up. Okay, there's a little bit of a hiccup right there where he dipped down. I don't know why he dipped down. I'll have to fix that. I'm going to copy this, go up a couple frames, paste it. Make these a little bit bigger. Alright, so now he has this weird, like, bobbing that's going on for some reason. So just so you can see what's happening, if I go to the graph editor and I look at my value graphs, okay, look what's happening. He's going from, we're just moving in the Y direction. He's going from being below the ground to being in that static pose, but then we have this, like, weird, janky, like, I don't know, lightning bolt thing. And then it's back to that same spot. So what happens is sometimes After Effects tries to do a good job of blending everything nicely together. It doesn't always happen, right? So what I can do is a couple things. I can click on this, right click and say toggle hold keyframe. And what that's going to do is basically go to that keyframe and then hold that keyframe until the end. The other thing I can do is try to use my pen tools and stuff and maybe manipulate this and tweak it to get it. The easiest thing to do is just do that hold keyframe. Okay? So now, if I scroll that back down. Oops, I can't see you. There we go. So now you can see he comes up, he stops for a second, he comes up and stops for a second. So now what I can do is I'm going to start this about here. I'm going to grab his pupils. Now, with each of these pupils, I'm typically not going to move the right pupil different than the left pupil. What I mean by that is I would never grab this one and go this way and then grab that one and go that way. That looks weird. Typically I'm going to grab both and go this way and that way. Okay? So again, I can think about how I'm doing this animation and try to maximize my efficiency, try to minimize the amount of keyframes. So instead of parenting both of these to face, if I parented, let's say, left pupil to right pupil, you'll see that now I can just grab the right pupil and move it, and left pupil will move with it. Okay? So that makes it a lot easier for me just to minimize the keyframes. Now I've only keyframed 3 layers instead of 6. Okay? Back to this. So I'm going to go here. I can see him kind of coming up. So as he comes up, his pupils are going to be off to the side, so I'm just going to shift that over. Set a keyframe here. Oops. It's snapping to that, so I'm just going to use this. There we go. And then I'll go back the other way. Now, I'm for sure going to see that this is probably moving really weird because he's not stopping. He's just going to go boom, 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 boom with his eyes. He's going to look weird. That way again. All right. So just like I did on the head coming up where I had these pauses in there, that's what I want to add for the eyeballs. So I'm going to grab this keyframe here, copy it, and paste it. Copy this keyframe, paste it. Copy this keyframe, paste it. Now what's going to happen, because I'm basically not spreading out these keyframes any, the movement's going to happen super quick. And because we didn't toggle the hold keyframes, we may get some extra jittery movement. Nope, this time I really didn't do it. Oh, look at that. His eyeball is behind his hand. What happened there? Let's take his pupils and drop them below the hand layers. That doesn't affect anything, just, you know, the layer stacking. There we go, perfect. All right, so that's good. It's obviously super slow. I'm going to add a little bit more time to this because that's like way too slow. Let's go to 10 seconds. When I add more time to this, I spread this open. See how all these layers are cut? That's just like a default. It automatically sizes them to my composition. I'm just going to Control A to grab everything and then stretch it out. That's all I got to do there. And then I can start to spread these out. So I'm going to take the head position first and pull that. There we go. So the head feels better now. I think these 3, I am just going to easy ease those. Okay, that feels better. And then I'm going to take these and just start to spread these out some. All right, so not perfect, but good enough. Okay, let me set my work area. Let me go to my composition and trim my comp. Perfect. All right, so there's my little alien. Now what I want to do with him is I want to then take this animation and I want to, sorry, easy ease. Oops. So I'm grabbing every other one. I think that's right. I'm going to right click and just easy ease that. Cool. If you're not sure, easy ease all of them and then go back and fix it. There we go. Okay. So now what I want to do is take him and put him into a different composition. So I'm going to make a brand new comp. Alien pops in. I'm assuming that's an alien. I've never seen one in real life. So there we go. All right. So I want him to pop into this box. Okay. So I have my layer here. I'm going to go to my compositions where my alien parts are and drop that into this layer. And switch these so we can see it. All right. So this is what we get. Obviously not what we want, okay? I want him to look like he's not there at all, and then magically he's popping into this box here. So I'm going to line him up with what I want, where I want him to be, right there. Okay. Now I want to get rid of this part here. Now, 2 ways that I could do this. There's probably 50 ways, but 2 ways I'm going to show you how to do this. I can go to the alien parts here. I can go to my mask. Okay, just grabbing the shape layer, and I can basically draw a shape around this. Okay, now what that does is it's showing only the stuff that's inside the mask. So I'm going to invert the mask. You see the button that says inverted? I click it. So now everything that's inside the mask is not visible, everything outside the mask is visible. So that as I hit play now, you'll see how he pops up into frame like that. Okay, so now that's pretty sweet how it works. The problem with it though is that what happens when I take this box and I've moved it over here? Now I have to go back and update my mask again. That's a pain in the booty, so let's not do that. So what I'm going to do is, remember last time we talked about track mats, right? So the same thing can apply to a track mat. So if I were to take my alien and swap him below this layer, and then I said, hey, I'm going to use this layer above it as a mask. I'm going to say alpha mat. Okay? So now watch what happens. Wherever that box was, that's where my alien's going to pop up. Okay? So you see him sitting right there. Sweet. Now what I can do with that, because my box is now gone, is I can duplicate this layer, put it below it, and then just turn it back on. Okay, so very quickly I can update this. Okay, now you're going to say, well, now if you grab this box and you move it, well, now it doesn't update the alien, and that's 100% correct. But remember my parenting stuff, I can now parent this shape to my shape layer 2. So now if I were to grab this and move it, it's going to update the mask and the shape. Okay, now I could also, just for fun, parent my alien to that too. Oops. There we go. So now the alien is also parented to this layer. So now when I grab this and move it, you'll see my alien is going to move along with it. All right, so very cool how we can do this kind of stuff using track mats. So we're using them in this case for titles, for blips, for that kind of thing, but we could use them for a number of things besides that, okay? So I just thought that was kind of a neat thing to drop in there. All right, nothing to do with our title. If you want to add a little creature to your title doing that, you totally could. Cool. All right, so now to get back to the title stuff, I'm going to make a new composition, 3 seconds long, perfect. All right. Last time we talked about doing these kind of blippity type things where we did the circle blips like that, right? And then I also showed how we can do lines, same thing. I'm going to throw one more into your tool bag that you can play with, which is going to be, oops, I'm going to make another new composition. So I have this new comp that I just created. That's going to be the one we drop stuff into. This is going to be a blip, so I'm going to make this one square just like we did before. Okay, the first one that we did was the circle one, blipping out, whatever. The second one we did was which one? The lines, right? Okay, so the problem with the lines one is that the lines are pretty boring. It's just like straight lines, curvy ends. So let's do something that's a little bit more fancy. We're going to do streaks, okay? And a streak is basically going to take a diamond shape and it's going to stretch out one part. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing. Let's squish that back down. I'm going to create my diamond. The easiest way to create a diamond is to create a thing like this and then like rotate it. So that's what I'm going to do. You could obviously draw this also. There we go. Okay. Now I need to make this smaller because this streak is going to go across the screen, so I need to make sure it's small enough. All right, so what I want to do is I want to change the shape of this. Right now this is still a square or a rectangle. If I click on this and I grab a point, I have to open it up first and then click on contents, rectangle, there we go. If I click on one of these points and move it, it's always going to be a rectangle, okay? If we drew this inside of Illustrator, and just so you can see it for your own frame of reference, and then I go to hit A for my arrow tool, and then I grab a point and move it, it's no longer a rectangle, right? It's now an actual like Bezier shape. That's what that's called. So I want to convert this into a Bezier shape so I can do the exact same thing. Super simple. We right click on rectangle. Nope. We right click on, where did you move it to? You're in here somewhere. There it is. We right click right on the rectangle path and then say convert to Bezier path. Okay. Now what that does is it gets rid of that rectangle shape, and now I have each point that I can click on and animate, which is super awesome. Okay, so if I click on this path now and I grab one of these points, you can see how just like in Illustrator I'm able to move just the individual points. Now that's important because I need to be able to create this like streaky shape. So the first thing I do is make the streaky shape. Okay, and this may sound backwards. We want this to be like nothing, streaky shape, and then nothing again. Okay, so it looks like it's like streaking from one side to the other. So we basically start off in the, there's 4 parts to this: the beginning, the end, streaky shape in the front, streaky shape in the back. We're going to start off with the streaky shape in the front, and then go streaky shape in the back, and then hide it. Okay. So this is number 2 keyframe. So I go to the path now, and you'll see that there's just a path keyframer. I click the keyframe button. I'm going to go up, I don't care how many frames, I'll go up 5 frames. There we go. Don't be concerned with how many frames you go up. You know the order of the keyframes you need, set them in some order, and then you can always reposition where they're at to get the exact speed and animation you want. All right, so this is 5 up here. This is going to be streaky shape in the back. So I'm going to grab this and put it here. So now you see the streaky shape is in the back. Just like regular keyframing, it automatically set keyframes for us. So I don't need to hit the stopwatch again or do anything else. So now I have this. Okay. Now I can set either one. I can go to the front and set it or the end and set it. So I'm going to go to the frontier, and I'm going to push this in. Push this down. It may need a little bit more assistance getting the shape you want. Sometimes 4 keyframes isn't enough. Sometimes you have to go like in between these and set some extra ones, and in between these and set some extra ones. But we'll see. Okay, so now it goes. That's cool. All right. And then this one will be just on the other side. It goes here, and goes here. And then this one goes there. All right. So now, sweet. Okay. I'm not worried that there's still a little like chunk of white at the end of that, because what would happen ideally is we would just cut that layer off right there. It would just automatically just disappear. Okay. So that works. I want this to happen quicker, so I'm just going to squeeze my keyframes closer together. So I squeeze that in, squeeze this in, squeeze that in. So when I had 5 for my second keyframe, now my second keyframe is at 3. Okay. I may even want to go quicker than that. I'm going to go like crazy on this. I'm going to go to 2. That looks awesome. Okay, I like that. I'm going to hit U to hide that. You could definitely try easing this. There's nothing there, though. These keyframes, we have 4 of them in 10 frames. So any easing is not going to be even apparent, okay, because there's not enough frames to actually see anything. But just to get in the habit of it, why not? And we'll see if there's no difference. Okay. So I'm going to go to the end of this. I'm going to cut my layer, Alt, right brackety. I'm also going to cut my composition. So I hit N, composition, trim comp. Okay. And it's always good to make sure your comps are the size that you need them and no longer. It just makes your life easier. Cool. So now I need to rename this because I did not name that. Streak single or singlet, whatever you want to call it. All right. So what we're going to do with our title sequence is we're going to use that streak inside of our title sequence. Okay. So what our title sequence will look like is we're going to have, and this is the demonstration one. You can definitely follow the demonstration one if you want, or if you want to create your own using the same concepts, you definitely could do that too. It's going to be a box that slides in and goes bloop like this. Okay. So it's going to be a box on its corner and then it falls in. So just to set up some guides here, right there and right there. Okay, I have to unlock my guides because I locked them. And I don't use that lock guides, unlock guide hotkey enough to remember it. But I believe it's Control Shift, comma, or semicolon. Yeah, Control Alt Shift, semicolon. Way off. Okay, so I've divided this basically into thirds. My name is going to be right here. The box will slide in, it'll plop on this ground plane, and then it'll say Sean Sarcona. And then under the ground plane, it'll say Assignment 1, Page Transitions. Okay? There's more to it, but that's the general gist of it. I need to know all that stuff ahead of time. Actually, I think I want to push this up just a tiny bit more. Like that. Alright, so now I actually have like more of like thirds here. That works out great. Okay, I'm going to make a box. So I click on my little box tool, and I'm actually going to double click it so that it fills it up. Okay, and like I've said before, I use just these sliders for any kind of scaling. Coming out here to scale is never a good idea. It's a horrible thing that happens. Just scoot that up. Whoop, where'd you go? See what happened? It just like scaled it or something. Alright, so that should be almost good. I think I need a little bit thinner. Nope, thinner I said. That should be good. So that's just going to fit the letter S for my name right in there. And one more pixel higher maybe, 33, 34. Alright, I'm satisfied with that. Okay. Cool. There it is. Alright, so now what I need to do is get this thing to slide into frame. To get it to slide into frame, I need to animate it sliding in. The way that I want that to happen, where's my prop? There we go. I want it to slide in like this, and then go like that, okay? So where's my pivot going to be for this thing? Right here? Yep, right there in that corner, right? it's important that I set this up now and not later, because later it's very difficult to try to move it from that center point. Okay? So I'm going to hit Y, move it to the corner I want it to slide in, and I'm just going to pull it out. So I'm going to set 2 keyframes. One of them is going to be for position. The other one will be for rotation. Thank you. And I'm just going to set it up now. So that's how I want to slide in. So you can see the angle. Cool. I'm just going to set some keyframes here. Scoot up a little bit. Again, don't worry about where you're setting the keyframes. Just know the order. I want this to happen, then I want this to happen. Then you can adjust their spacing and everything. Slide that in. Right there looks like a good spot. That way I can fit Sean Sarcona right here. Cool. Now I don't want it to rotate the entire time. I don't want it to do this. This is going to look stupid. That looks stupid, right? I want it to look like it slides in, hits something, and then plops down. That's what I want to happen. So I will delete that keyframe. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little diamond about here, and then scoot up a little bit, and then rotate it. Bless you. All right. I hit spacebar. There we go. So now it feels like it hits it, and then it falls down. Okay, even though it's before it, usually you want to go before. If you go right at, sometimes it feels like it's delayed. You may see this, you may not see this, but I'm going to put it right at the same spot. It felt a little bit delayed, right? Even if you don't agree with me, just nod, please.
Yeah. You know exactly what you're talking about.
Good. So I'm going to ease my position first. Adjust my speed graph. Yeah. So I really want that smack to feel like a smack. So I'm going to pull just the one side over. I think pulling both sides might be a little bit too aggressive. Okay, I think I'm going to pull this. Actually, line it up with it now. Okay. Now I'm going to do something else. So I lined up that rotate keyframe with it now just because now it feels like it's like too soon. I'm going to take this rotate keyframe and actually pull it backwards, right? So if you've seen cartoons before, the cartoon runs, his feet are in front of his head, right? Because he's kind of like leaned back. That's what we're going to do. We're going to just lean this back further. That way it feels like there's a little bit more pressure, a little bit more speed happening. I'm going to ease these guys. This here, I want this to go pretty fast backwards. And then this one here is going to be pretty fast up front also. Let's see how that looks. Nope, I'm going to go the other way. There we go. There we go. That feels better. Now let me just tick this over one and see. Yep, that feels good. Maybe even another one. Set my work area and just play this. Alright, that feels good. After watching it 5 times, it feels good. If you're ever in doubt, go crazy with that number. Like, if you don't know how far back for this to go, or you're not sure how close or far apart these should be, right now this is at 17 frames, this one's at 25, so there's 8 frames between them. Push it too far. Okay, so I know 95% sure that this is not going to be the right speed, right? That's like way too quick. But now I have basically a clean palette that I could then go and adjust. Sometimes you get kind of like in the zone about, yeah, that looks good because you've watched it 1,000 times and you need to just step away from it or change your memory of what that used to look like. That's 24. I think 25 was good. Yep. Perfect. All right, so that looks awesome. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to add my streaks to it. Okay, so as this thing comes into screen, like this, I want to have streaks here and there, and maybe one. I can Yeah, I'll do one there. I'll just do a different color one there, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where I want that streak to be the biggest, like right here. I'm going to slide my streak up to where I want it to look the biggest, or what I want it to look like at that point. And then I'm just going to position it. So I literally just like moved it over to that spot. Obviously it's huge. I need to scale it down. And because I'm snapping still, I'm just going to use my arrow keys to move that into position. I think right there might be a good spot for it. Okay. So, I can't leave it like that. That looks stupid. Okay. So what I need it to do is I need it to actually follow the cube, right? Because that's where the streak is coming from. It's not just a magical thing that it's showing up. So, what is one way that I could get that streak to follow the cube? Remember how I got the eyes to follow the face and the mouth to follow the face? Parenting, right? Okay, so the answer is not parenting, but it is parenting. If that makes sense, it won't. It will in a second. Okay, so I'm going to parent it to that shape. Now watch what happens. Do you see how it's like? I'll go slower so we can see it.
Almost looks like it's floating away.
Right, it's floating away, but what's happening too is that it's also rotating, and that's what's giving it this like weird effect. Because this is moving and doing that, it's like doesn't work, okay? So that's why the answer is and isn't parenting. We want to parent the streak to that shape, but we only want to control the position, okay? So I only want the position to follow the other one. So again, something that's going to sound crazy, like I don't know what to do here, but you'll see. So I'm going to take my streak single here, and I'm going to open up position on both of these things so I can see the position for both. I can't copy keyframes from one and put them on the other one. Their values are different. It won't work. Okay? So what I can do is if I hold down Alt and I click on the stopwatch, watch what happens here. Words pop up. See that? And what this does is it allows you to write an expression. You are not writing an expression. Okay? All we're going to do is we're going to go to the end of this line, hit the plus sign, and then I'm going to do what's called pick whipping. Do you see this little lasso right here, this little pick whip? I'm going to drag it to the position of the other one, like that. So After Effects wrote the expression for me. So what this is going to do is it's going to take its current position, excuse me, it's going to take the current position, it's going to take the shape layer position, and it's going to put those two numbers together, okay? Now, if you don't know the math of this, you don't need to know the math of it. All you need to know is that you hit the plus sign and you drag the little pick whip to there. So this is what the end formula looks like. Transform.position plus blah, 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 blah. Okay? Now, you'll see that this moved away. No big deal. I'll just drag this back. But now as we watch this, this follows it. Okay? See how it comes into the screen with it? It wasn't doing that before. So now if we watch this, that feels better. Okay? Just because we've basically isolated the position, and now the position is moving with the box only. Now here's what another awesome thing about After Effects is, because I set this up on number 1, streak single number 1, when I duplicate this, just so you can see, it kept those connections. So all I have to do now is just move the number 2 into the right spot. Right about there. And then I duplicate it again, and I'll move number 3 right into that spot. I'm going to have to change the color of that one so I can even see it. I'm just going to do a little tint on this. Where are we at? Color correction. There we go. Tint. Whites. Yeah, we'll just leave it that color for now. Sweet. Actually, let me just copy this to all 3 of these. All right. Just so it stands out some more so we can see it. Okay. Much more dynamic than just having a box that just flops onto our screen. A couple other things we could do to this is we could take those 3 things that are right now animating exactly at the same time and look exactly the same, and we can just offset them some. I don't have to do anything else as far as position goes. I just need to scoot, scoot, and scoot, scoot. There we go. So what should happen now is now we have 3 dynamic ones that are all hitting different spots. Okay, this one here I may just kind of nudge, oops, not you. Just nudge him back a little bit and up a little bit, just so he feels like he's more in that area. Sweet. Then I can also add motion blur to this. Motion blur. Now watch what happens when I do motion blur on these streaks. Oops, let me turn motion blur on. Do you see that we do not see any motion blur? Oh, I guess we do. Never mind. Never mind, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. For once, I'm wrong. There we go. Sweet. Okay. So this will be the first part of your title sequence, is that. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to have a letter rise up out of the box. Okay. You've done this before. You've seen it done before. You've talked me through it before, so that's not a huge deal. I'm going to type a letter. Because I'm typing my name, I will type S. I will pick a nice font. Do you know that if you pick a font on your home computer and then you bring it here and we don't have that font, it will not show up? Yes? Okay. Some people forget that and they come here and say, well, I can't work on my stuff because I don't have my font. I'm going to pick this ugly red and I'll pick better colors later. There you go. Why aren't you changing? I actually like... Yeah, wingdings. Raindrop. There we go. Or teardrop. Not papyrus. What was that one? Playbill. I'll go with playbill. Nice blocky letter. Make sure that it fits inside here. That works. Maybe I will adjust the width of this. That's not the width. Why would I want that? Text tool. I need to see all of my stuff. Well, that is all my stuff. Alright, I'm just going to go to regular scale, and I will just scale this wider. There we go. Alright, I want to fill the box, but, you know, not be ridiculous. Okay. Maybe a little bit less. 256. That's better. Okay. Alright, so now I'm just going to animate this coming in. As we animate stuff, make sure that we know where things are going to be animating in at, right? It makes no sense for me to have my letter S even in my timeline until it's needed. So I'm going to go until that box is resting right there, and then I'm just going to scoot this down. Or I could use my hotkey left bracket and just bump it down to that point. I'm going to scoot it down below the ground. There we go. I'm going to animate the position, scoot it up a bit, push it up into here. That should be good. Easy ease. I want it to kind of come fast and then slow down. Oops. All right. Another thing I can do to this, because that's kind of like comes in, I move this keyframe up a little bit, and what I do is I take this and scoot it up above. So what should happen now, and instead of just going bloop, it's going to go bloop like that. So it's going to like pop into the screen. There we go. And then we can adjust our graph editor. This is why it's nice you guys have 2 monitors, because then you can frame your stuff better than I can. So that one I put the speed right in the middle, so it's kind of like slower and then goes faster. Okay, that works. Sweet. All right, so how do I then get the S to not show up down here? Yes, track mats. So I'm going to duplicate my shape layer. I'm going to pull it above the S because I have to have a copy of it because I can't use that same thing. And then I'm just going to go to my letter S, go to my track matte, and say alpha matte. Because I don't need anything before this, I'm just going to scoot that in. There we go. Sweet. Cool. Okay, so that should get you a good chunk of this started. We still have more that we're going to add to this, but I think that should be good for now. So if you didn't get a chance to work on the circle blips and the line blips, do the circle blips and the line blips first. Then you can start on this. The only thing we've really added to this was the streak thing. So taking a square, right-clicking on the path, converting it to a Bezier, and just animating the shape of it. That's all we've done different there. And then when we parented it, we clicked on the P button for each of these. We alt-clicked on the streak one. I'll do this to a blank layer just so we don't screw up what we already have. Alt-click here. You clicked off to the side, you hit the plus sign, and then you pick-whipped the position of the one you wanted to have it move with. So now, it's moving with that one. You can still move it, position it, color it, whatever you need to. Okay, those are only two things we've gone different on this one. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't catch.
Right on your shape, when you make your shape, if you open up the rectangle or whatever it is, you right-click right on the path, you convert it to a Bezier path. Okay? And that's true for Illustrator stuff too. So even though you have Illustrator stuff that you brought in, where are you, little alien dude? Artwork. I'm just going to drag his face down here so we can see this. He doesn't have any stuff on him right now, but if I go to layer, create shape layers from vector layer, what this is going to do is then recreate this entire thing using shape layers. And you'll see now that I have a path, so then I could take this and adjust the path just like I would in Illustrator. Sweet. Okay.